You random internet strangers, it's Random Forex Guy here for the weekend update. It's the only time I have to really do any research, as I've stated in the past that I listen all week long to different podcasts and videos, and then I do a little bit of research on things that interest me, pique my interest a little bit more. And so I come up with a different take and a different spin after listening to all the chatter. Want to go over real quick that I am not a financial advisor, planner, any way, shape, or sort. I'm just a guy who uh, came from the Forex market and saw crypto as a great and excellent opportunity to make more money because the forex market is slow. And so I've been kind of on a crash course in learning about cryptocurrencies. And I haven't seen this talked about anywhere. So, what I want to talk about today, I've been trying to plan it, organize it in my head all week long, and managed to get it down to where I think I want to go in just two screens. I could go very deep, very off topic into a lot of different areas in politics and whatnot. But I'm going to try to just keep it simple and to see how we can capitalize on the upcoming events. Uh, One thing that stands out, if you look at the long history, I mean, this only goes back to 2015. Bitcoin originally originated in 2008, so we're missing over half a decade here. So, but that's okay. The dates that we were interested in is the halving, where the Bitcoin miners stopped receive only half of what they used to receive. They started when they started mining it. Once they completed a block, they would get 50. And then in 2013 or 2012, I believe, the first halving happened where that cut down to 25 Bitcoin. And then more recently, we had the 2016 actually, happening where it was cut again to 12 and a half. And we are now approaching 2020, approximately May, where the halving will happen again. And this time it'll go down to from 12 and a half to 6.25 Bitcoin per. That's what they have to earn. And for the miners to make this worth their while, because it takes tremendous amount of computational power. It They have to have the price of Bitcoin be worth their while to mine. Otherwise, they're not going to mine it. They'll just shut everything down because it costs a lot of electricity and computing power to do that. But this is the area that I wanted to talk about. I mean, you can see a big spike here in the volume. If you move in real close, uh, let me see if I can get to that level over here. This was when the first halvening happened, all the way back in 2012. Is this going to let me go? I think it's. Let me get this out of the way again. Dang ads. Just trying to save money. But if you can see right here, there's a spike of volume. And that's where first halvening happened. Or no, I'm sorry. This was the second halvening in around 2016. And it took a while for it to catch fire, but we got all the way up into 2018, and then this first big wave happened. It takes a while for it to catch up, but then we had this great big wave here. But you know what? People seem to stop not talk about is the second wave right here. Now, this wave didn't come out of a vacuum, but it also didn't come out of a halvening event. Now the previous halvening event, there's a small blip on the radar, and I'll show that in the next chart. But what we see here is this wave isn't as strong as the first wave. It isn't parabolic like the first wave was. It has a lot more ups and downs to it. And then, but this didn't occur out of a vacuum. I was like, well, what would have caused this? So what I did is I compared the Bitcoin chart to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Now here you see the first halving happened right around here, around 2012, and then we had this peak upwards in 2013. That was the first real big surge of Bitcoin. It went from let's see, from $100, $200 at the peak, it was around 900. And so that was a huge jump. And then, it jumped back down again and did nothing for a while. And then we had the second halvening right around here, around 2016. That's when the next halvening happened. And you notice nothing happens right away, but then all of a sudden, because there's less Bitcoin being mined, boom, I had this parabolic run straight up. And this is, I believe it's a 3-year chart, 5, 10-year chart. This is the 10-year chart. So each of these represents quite a bit, significant amount of time. But you can see each time went up into a parabolic shift and then dropped back down to our down below 3,500. But then this wave happened. And there was no halvening event. There wasn't anything to perpetuate that. So I was like, well, what caused that? That didn't come out of a vacuum. So I started looking at the Dow because it's all about money flow and where is the money heading. And at this point in time, during this where this event happened, not where the halvening happened, but where the event happened, where you started to see a parabolic rise, you saw an increase in the stock market at the same time. Now that was prior to a halvening event, so we have that. And then you saw the same thing happen here. You see an increase in stock after the halving event, and then an increase in price in Bitcoin. But let's take a look at this next one. We've seen a dramatic drop, exactly coinciding with this particular wave right here. So we had a couple big demon drops here where people were getting scared out of the market, out of this zone right here. And so they taking their money to safe havens because this was a huge drop down. uh, it was like a 10-20% drop if I remember correctly. That was in December 2018. And now you've seen a significant rise as the money flowed out of the stock market and into Bitcoin. And then you've seen a second run here, another rise, bam, as a rise in Bitcoin as a drop in the stock market. People kept getting spooked out of the stock market. And then it continued on, and false alarm apparently in everybody's mind. So now we have this nice bull market still, and had these demon drops, but nothing that showed a complete reversal of the bear market of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the blue line. But in the meantime, we've seen a steady decline as money outflowed out of Bitcoin and into the stock market, back to the stock market, I should say. So I got thought about this for a second. I was like, well, what would happen if a halvening event occurred at the same time as a stock market drop? Then the money would get super scared and super greedy at the same time on Bitcoin, and we could potentially see a parabolic rise fairly quickly. Right now, the Fed is propping up the stock market with quantitative easing. I could get deep into it, but basically they repoed a lot of bad debts, particularly from Deutsche Bank, because Deutsche Bank was well underwater. They made all kinds of bad, terrible decisions. And so the Fed printed out a bunch of money, which is backed by your children's taxes, which I don't know why people aren't revolting against that, but I digress and I don't want to get into that area. I'm just here, I want to hear to see how can we capitalize on this. And so they plan on continuing this quantitative easing, this pumping of money into the markets, and continue these low taxes and this high, and the government continues to have high spending with no real way to pay off this spending. So not only is the government spending too much money, now you have the bank, the central bank, which just prints money out of thin air and backs it with your children's tax dollars, spending money to prop up these banks. And they plan on ending this sometime around April, which is about a month or two before the next halvening. And when that happens, so now there's no more free money, the stock market is going to correct. And that's when it's going to correct. And I think this may be by design. I'm not sure, but I think this may be by design. So if it does correct, all the money is going to flee out of the stock market, out of the blue line, and into Bitcoin, one area, because people look for safe havens to store their money so it doesn't lose value. Usually those have been traditionally gold and silver, but Bitcoin has proven itself as a store of value, a very good one. It tends to go up in value, very much so. And some places you can still trade it with leverage so they can even go up even more. So again, to think maybe if that is true, if Bitcoin can even capture 10% of that market, you're going to see valuations go up into the 5, possibly 6 digits, up above $100,000 per Bitcoin. It depends upon how much of that market cap, when that money flees from the stock market, goes, it's what's called risk on, is when all the money's in the stock market. And then when the stock market tanks and goes to hell, the money goes what's called risk off, and they go to less risky places. And Bitcoin is fast becoming one of those places, as shown right here. Boom, down. We had a downturn here. That stopped the bear market. Then this downturn here created this bull run. Now, what happens if a halvening and a stock market downturn occur at the same time? Nobody knows yet. Nobody really truly knows. And if that market cap even comes close, even 5% of the gold and silver rush, where everybody rushes to gold and silver when the stock market goes to shit, how much would that be? I know that there's people with calculators out there that could calculate that. Even at 5%, it would be well into the 5 digits, easily. If it hits 10, easily up to 6 digits. I mean, I don't have a calculator. I don't know the calculations exactly. I just know what I see. I know enough about macroeconomics and be able to do some comparisons. And something like this event had never happened. I call it the perfect storm, where you have the halvening, a big correction in the stock market, and people go from greedy to fearful. And so now's the time to be greedy. You want to be greedy when people are fearful. People are scared of this downtrend. This is when you want to be greedy. And people are greedy up here. This is when you want to be fearful, when we're going up. So we buy it wholesale and sell it retail. And then when all the FOMO traders get in, you sell to them and make out like a bandit. How high will it go? I have no idea. Not a clue. It will all depend upon how much market cap Bitcoin can capture and take away from gold and silver and those safe havens, and even the dollar to some extent. So the dollar is another place where people store their money. This is almost over. Remember, this is not financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. You can read my full disclosure on my website at randomforexguy.com. I think I'm getting a little bit better at articulating my positions on things. I don't talk a lot. in real life. So I'm kind of using this as kind of like my Toastmasters. So thanks for stopping by, checking my video out, hit like and subscribe.